Hi! Welcome and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bianca. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I made Simplicity 6408. If you watched my reorganization of my patterns, you may have remembered that I've had this pattern for a while, like probably a year or two, and I've never made it because it is a size 8 and I am not a size 8. So I was very nervous about making one of these. Another thing is I love a backless dress. And you can tell that all of these have such beautiful backless details. So the version I'm going to make here is version 1. And the fabric that I'm using for it is this little gingham. I also got this from Joann a couple of years ago, and I just never knew what I was going to make with it. And I thought, why not use two things that I've had for quite some time to make a beautiful new dress? I have something in my eye. Well, if this is content that you enjoy, please make sure to give it a like and consider subscribing to see more videos like this one. So let's go back in time and show you how I made this dress and see if it actually fits. Because I knew that this pattern wasn't gonna fit, I decided to make a little mock-up of the bodice. This is a 24-inch waist pattern piece, and I am not a 24-inch waist. So I'm making this here. I don't show the mock-up yet, but I ended up changing the seam allowance instead of 5/8 to 3/8, and that seemed to work on Rosita, so I don't know, let's give it a shot and use the actual fabric. So I cut out my actual fabric, and here are the front, the sides, and the back. I pinned those together and took them to the sewing machine to sew them up with that 3/8 seam allowance. So here I have the front and the lining made up the exact same way, with sewing those seams slightly smaller to fit my body. Up next, I worked on the straps. So for the straps, it's these two little rectangle pieces, and then you just fold them in half, sew it up, and then flip them inside out. Pretty easy peasy. Now that those are done, we have our straps, our bodice front, and my lining. The next thing I'm going to be working on is on that big strap that goes on the back. This strap is supposed to be made on the bias. I don't do that. I just grabbed it from the long ways because, again, it's just a strap. If you know why it has to be on the bias and why I should be doing it that way instead of the way that I'm doing it, please let me know. But this seemed to work. Luckily for Christmas, one of my cousins gave me some bias tape makers. And this was so fun to make. I absolutely loved it. I took this to the machine and started sewing this all the way down, and you can see that this is a really long strap, but it looks super cute. Something new that this pattern taught me was how to make these little loops. I've never made loops before, so I did this with the bias tape maker, and that was totally wrong. So I had to scrap this, re-iron it out. But basically, I grabbed thin pieces of fabric, folded it in half, and then just cut out the size for the loops as it requested. So I was really nervous about this because I was like, well, if I cut the loop, then the whole thing is gonna unravel, which it won't because I'm gonna sew it up in between the lining and the front of it. I don't know why I was super nervous about this. It turned out really good, I thought. So yeah, I like that this pattern taught me something, and honestly, like, I think this is an awesome detail, so I might do it again. Alright, now it seems like I have everything ready to start pinning. I'm pinning my straps here first, it tells me to pin them on the back to sew, and then I have to hand stitch the front of it later, which I think is weird, but whatever. Then I have to do these little loops. I'd never done these little loops before, so I'm like, okay, how many do I need? I think I needed like 4 on each side, but I didn't mark my pattern. Oops. So I was like, how am I gonna space these out to kind of look good? So let's grab that pattern piece one more time and actually mark our pieces. So what are we learning here? We should be marking our pattern pieces onto our fabric. Yes, you're welcome. I know. I just figured something out. You're welcome. You would think that I'd learned, right? You would think that I would know this by now. I didn't. So I marked them and I was able to pin them. And then we just go and sew these up together. Once I finished sewing both of those sides, I grabbed the lining or the front piece because it's pretty much the same thing, and I pinned this all the way around and sew it. The only thing that I didn't do that I wish I had done was sewn the strap to the piece at this point. The instruction says to sew it at a later time after you do this, and I don't agree with it, so I wish I had done it at this point. Otherwise, the bodice is pretty much done. I also got my sweet Teddy come and visit me in the sewing room, so here's a little bit of my baby bear. The next thing I started working on were these pockets. I wasn't really sure if I was going to actually use them because I just kind of thought that it would look kind of weird if I did. Even though I wasn't sure, I ended up doing it anyway. It was a great learning experience, and I think it still looks pretty nice. Oh my god, these mosquitoes are eating me alive because I'm recording outside. So what I did is I folded this little section here 1/4 inch up. I also zigzagged all the way around the edges, cut those corners at the very top, and I just have to flip it inside out. So this is the other pocket piece flipped inside out, like the very top section, so you can see kind of what it looks like. All I have to do is fold this 1/4 inch, and it looks like this. So the little zigzag prevented me from having to do that twice, and I think I did okay. Another thing I had to change is the skirt. So the skirt is kind of like a circle skirt, and I've never done a circle skirt before. I really wanted to do it, but my fabric was like, yeah, right, girl, you don't have enough fabric. So a regular gathered skirt was gonna have to do. So here I'm just ironing on some iron-on interfacing to the zipper opening sections. So I moved back inside of the house. You shouldn't hear the birds, but you might hear the air conditioner because it's 90 degrees today. Because the skirt isn't the skirt pattern, I didn't really know where to put these patch pockets, and I've never done patch pockets before that I can remember. So I gathered this skirt up like I normally do, you know, with the crochet thread and the zigzag stitch, and I put it on, and then I kind of like placed the pockets where I thought they would go. I pinned them here, but I didn't really like how these fit, so I moved them a little bit more to the side. Because this piece is backless, the zipper only is at the bottom half of the skirt, so I put this in here. This is an invisible zipper, and as you can see, I did my typical Bianca thing and made sure that none of it matched, you know. One day I'll get better. But don't look at that too closely, and don't judge me. Just look at the top section when I show you the end. The last thing I did was repin those pockets because I was very much on the fence of whether I wanted to put those on or if I should have just done regular inseam pockets. But like I said, this was an opportunity to learn something new, so I pinned these up here while my little bear was helping me. And once I sewed those up, I can show you the final look. And this is the final dress. I absolutely love how the back turned out. The pockets are a little odd, but I think it worked out pretty well. What do you think? Friends and I went to the Old Magnolia Tea Room and we enjoyed a lovely tea time date. So here's a few images of us just enjoying some tea and this beautiful location. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like and consider subscribing to see more videos like this one. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.